Screen is visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. So let's start from the CMDB. So first of all, we have to basically know about the CMDB. What is the CMDB, right? Because first of all, we need a database where we can store the information, like all the information about the CI, right? The configuration item. So
Okay.
the CMDB is kind of a database which is coming with the ServiceNow platform, right? And they have some major tables where we are storing the data of the CI. Like we have a two major tables. First of all, the first table is the CMDB CI, the configuration item table. And the second major table was in the ITOM, it is a CMDB relationship table, right?
Okay.
So both of the table are interconnected with each other and both of the major tables in CMDB to run the discovery or service mapping or event management, right? So first we can talk about the first table, which is called the CMDB CI table. This is a parent table of the configuration item. And what is the configuration item in the customer environment? It is a routers, switches, like the network devices, and the servers. And server would be like the Linux servers or Windows server, maybe custom OS servers, right? And the storage devices. That all kind of informations are going to be stored in CMDB CI table. This is the main table, right? On that table, there is also some parts of that table which we are calling as a classes, right? Like we call the class like Linux class, the computer class, the hardware class, right? So,
Mhm.
so the first after the CI table, there is a second table, the child table of the CI class is the hardware class, right? And the application class. So after the CMDB CI, there is a two childs which name as a hardware and the application. So if I talk about the hardware, in that hardware class, we just store the information which have some hardware devices, right? Like the hardware servers, the computers, uh, the printers and all, right? In the softwares table, there is some information for the applications, like the install applications, like the Apache server, the MongoDB details, and all, and so on, right? Which is installed in a system which going to be in the CMDB application table, and which is a hardware, is the raw device, which is going to be on a hardware table, right? There is so many classes, so many child tables here for every class, right? And after the hardware, there is some computer, there is server table, there is router table, there is switch table, right? So
Okay.
the major table is CMDB and CMDB CI.
Okay.
Okay. So have you understand that, or do you have any question? So you have to directly ask that question so that I can answer you on that, right?
Yes. CMDBCI is the base table, you can say, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then, like after that, I mean, hardware and software are the two tables which are like the second table, like which is
Right.
extended by
Extended
CMDBC.
by the CMDB CI. Right.
Always
So
it is both,
right.
like always it is hardware and software. Then after it will come some other table.
Right.
Mm.
So that the other tables are depends on the application. Like the application has some segregations with the application names, right? The Apache, the MongoDB, and there is a so on applications, right? Which are,
Okay.
if I go for the hardware, there is the same kind of bifurcations, like for the computer, for the server, for the router, and for the switches, and for the storage devices also, right?
Yes. Okay.
So that's a major table diagram, right? How they structurize the data in the CMDB. So when we got the database, so how we can store the data in that database, right? That's a major point. We got the
Hmm.
database, but how we are going to be stored the data? So here is a three major points in the CMDB to store a data. The first of all, we can use the Excel to import the data in any of the table, right? The person will go that table, import, select, right click on the table field, and they will get the import field, right? Here they can extract the Excel data and send it to the CMDB table, right? The second one option is to import, which is use the transform map, right? We can import the data from the transform map also. And third one is using the APIs, right? We can call the third party APIs or the customer APIs to grab some information from that table to store the data in the table, right? The API is also work as a service graph connector in the CMDB, right? We can store the data via service graph connector also. Like the customer have some kind of tool which is maintaining the data in their application, right? But that data is just a minimal of data, like the host name, the IP address, and some kind of information about the CPUs and RAM, right? Customer
Hmm.
want that data in the CMDB, so we can connect that application with a service now via API or via service graph connector, right? So
Okay.
that's three are a basically way to get the data from outer sources, right? But all of that three options are need the human intervention, right? Like we need a person who will go to the ServiceNow instance or do some tasks to import the Excel, also run the transform maps, right? Also do some configuration in API, right? To check the data is coming correct or not, right?
Yeah.
So to resolve that human interface, that service now launched the discovery process, right? In
Okay.
that discovery process, what we are going to use, we just configuring some simple configurations in the customer's environment, like the user details or some IP ranges, setting the IP ranges in the ServiceNow platform. And we are going to schedule that for the particular time so that ServiceNow is automatically going to run that discovery process, right? We just only need a human here so that they can basically validate the data which is coming from the customer side,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So that's the discovery process to automate the whole process, right?
Hmm.
So now we are going to talk about the how the discovery works, right? Like how how we are going to communicate with the customer's environment, right? Like we just only parsing the one single IP on the platform. So based on that IP, how the service now is determined that like I have to go to that machine or to grab some set of data. This data is validated, right? So
Hmm.
for that, so there is some checksums in service now to implement a discovery in any of the customer environment, right? So the first check is we need a instance, right? The customer is already purchased that, but
Right.
we need a discovery plugin enable in the ServiceNow platform, right?
Yeah.
After that two part, we need one connector which is help to communicate to the customer environment. You know that the service now is in a properly a cloud platform, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That is a cloud platform and it is working their own preferences. So if and the customer environment is a on-prem data center, it is installed in a one data center, and now we need to communicate with the both of the data centers. So we need one of the mediator which helps to communicate both of us, right? So the service now launched the mid server. Mid server is a kind of application which we are going to install in customer environment in the one of machine which they are provide us, right? Like it could be a Linux server, it could be a Windows server, right? We can install that application in their environment so that our service now instance is able to communicate to their data center, the on-prem data center, right? That mid server is a main mechanism which is helps to communicate to the on-prem data center.
Okay.
So how it's work? Okay, let's see that. So first of all, whenever we run the discovery, it generates some ECCQ, the external communication channel, right? That basically uh, grabs some information from the ServiceNow platform and sends to that information to the mid server application, right? That mid server application will understand that information and try to communicate to those machines which we wanted to communicate, right? And pass some information to those machines so that they will revert back us some information. So that information is going to as a probes, right? The probes is whenever the data is going from the ServiceNow instance to the customer environment, it is going as a output probe. Okay.
Mm.
And whenever the data will came back from the customer side, it is a input probe.
Okay.
Okay. So that data is runs on a ECCQ performance and it is revert back as a XML payload. Whenever the data will came back to the mid server generate that data into the XML payload, and that payload will came back to the ServiceNow instance, and instance will read that XML payload and pass those information to the desirable fields or tables.
Okay.
So, are you clear here, or do you have any kind of questions here?
So ECCQ, like I'm just not that much
Okay. Okay,
clear.
we can talk. Yeah, we can talk about the ECCQ when we start the proper session for that, right? Because ECCQ is also one of the topic. ECCQ is basically a way to send the data from platform to the customer environment. It is a language which is understood by the mid server.
Okay. But mid server does that, right? Then why ECCQ?
Okay, so first of all, like the mid server is communicating with the ServiceNow platform via the URL communication. Like,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So whenever it's run the URL communication, so how the mid server know like that service now is going, that platform is going to send me some kind of work, right? So if I wanted to give you some work, so I will provide you some kind of documentation or something, or maybe I can tell you in verbal way, right?
Hmm.
So that's the similar way that service now will talk to the mid server in the ECCQ format.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yes. Okay, so in the discovery, there is some phases, right, which is performed by the platform to grab the proper data or revert back from the customer environment, right? So those phases, the discovery will run on a four phases. The first phase Shazam probe, the Shazam phase. Second one is a classification phase, and the third one is a identification phase, and the fourth one is a exploration phase. Okay, so whenever we run the discovery, right? Whenever we pass the IP address to go to scan that IP, right? So that IP will go first phase, which we call the Shazam phase. The Shazam probe will trigger on the platform that will basically trying to scan that IP to get some data. The data is kind of like the running processes or running port, right? The active ports in that machine, right? That
Hmm.
ports can be revert back some ports with that IP, like the port 22, port 135. The 22 is for Linux, 135 is for Windows. Maybe they have some kind of Apache is running that would be running on the 445, 443, or it could be 8080 or 80, right? Or if it is a network device, so we majorly scan a 161 port for UDP, right? the UDP 161 and 162 for the network devices, right? That kind of information will run on the scanning phase, right? Let's
Yes.
suppose, let's suppose we have a one customer. The customer name is XYZ company, right? They wanted to discover their Linux devices, right?
Hmm.
So we are going to run the discovery for the XYZ company. So they will provided us some IPs for the Linux machines. So whenever I pass the IP address in this discovery process, I will do the quick discovery, right? I can pass the IP address. I will run the discovery. So first of all, my discovery will go for the scanning phase, right? On that scanning phase, the discovery is trying to scan that IP to get the desirable port, right? For the Linux, I need a port 22 to be open on that machine so that they will revert back me a port 22, right?
Hmm.
So that's the same thing. Are you there? What ports are responding, right? Like the port 22. When we got the port 22 on that machine, that information is goes to the classification phase, right? The classification phase is going to be check the classifiers in the machine. Based on that port, it's classify that machine as a Linux machine, right? Because it is a port 22, so it's going to be classified as a Linux machine. When the classification is started at the same time, it's try to authenticate with that machine also, right? Via the username and password of that machine, right?
Mhm.
When the authentication is complete, it's run some set of commands on that machine, some set of processes based on that pattern which is runs on the classification phase, right? That runs on that machine and it send back some data. The data is the host name, the IP address, the architecture of the CPU, the RAM detail, the running processes, and the install applications, right? And so many details like the storage information, the drive details, and the network details, right? And they also shows the relationship of other devices, right? It's also scan the relationships, right? When that data will came back to the ServiceNow platform, based on that data, now then the data will came back to the platform. Based on the data, it sends that data to the identification phase. It's moved to the next step to identify that machine in the CMDB is already available or not, right? On
Mhm.
that classif basically that finding is work based on host name, right? In the classification phase, we got the host name in the discovery process, right? When the host name is moved to the identification phase, the identification phase is trying to scan the CMDB, the ServiceNow CMDB, to check in the CI table that host name is already available or not, right? So there is some if conditions, like when the data, if the data is already available, if the host name is already available in the CMDB, then discovery processes have to be update that record, right?
Hmm.
If that host name is not available in CMDB, that record is not available in that CMDB, so it have to be create that record, right? So if you ever see the discovery process, you will see the two type of classification, that completed or created or updated, right? So
Yes.
whenever you see the discovery completeness is created, it means that this is newly created record, right? Or whenever the status was updated, it means the record is already available. That CI is already available in the CMDB. When I run that discovery, it's update some of the record in that record, right? Some update some fields on that record, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when the three steps was completed, after that the exploration phase was started. And the exploration phase is kind of what else can you tell me about yourself? we are going to tell the machine, boss, please tell me about more about yourself. Like if you have installed the Apache, so you have to tell me about the Apache ports, Apache connectivity, what the process is running on that Apache, right? Where that Apache is going to be next connected. Like the Apache is connected to be database, right? You have to be
Yeah.
send me that data also so that I can so that information is help me whenever I need to create a service map, right?
Right.
So that's the exploration phase where we are going to be more understanding about that machine.
Okay.
Okay, let's move to the application discovery. Application discovery is kind of the service mapping, right? Because the discovery have a two kind of discovery process, the horizontal discovery and the top-down discovery, right? In that horizontal discovery, we just only run the discovery for the particular devices, right? It's not going to be scan the other devices in the same time, right? But when we run the top-down discovery, it's run the multiple scans for the multiple devices. Like we are going to scan the one URL, right? That URL will be hosted on the one server, the hosting server, right? But the database is also available on the other server, in the SQL server, right? So if I am going to be do the top-down discovery, so first scan the machine where the application is hosted, and then it goes to discover the database also. Okay, so that's a top-down discovery. The top-down discoveries work on the service mapping part. Whenever we do the service mapping, it's on the top-down discovery.
Okay.
Uh, Okay, so do you have any questions?
Uh, as of now, I'm fine. Like, one more question. Those
Yes,
port and everything, is there anywhere it is defined, or
yes,
like
yes,
the
yes.
okay.
Okay,
So
so
can you
like,
in the
yeah, please
practical
continue.
way?
Yes, I can move that on also. So
Okay.
first of all, I'll tell you this is already predefined for the ports, right? Like the SSH is a service to communicate with the Linux machines, right? This is kind of a secure shell hosting, right? Like I need to take a remote of any Linux machines, so I need use a port 22, right? For the
Hmm.
Windows, if I need to remotely access the Windows machine, so I have a two ports. One is the RDP port, and the second is a WinRM ports, right? Majorly the service now use the WinRM port, which is called a 135. The number was 135. Okay, it is already predefined ports. Okay,
Okay.
and there is one doc also where you can see which port is used for which servers or which machine, right? You can see that also.
Okay.
So that's the same thing what the ServiceNow solution is providing, the licenses and all, right? There is a three major licenses in ITOM Visible, ITOM Health, and ITOM Optimization. So you have to know about that also because you are going to be giving the solution to the customer. So you also know about the licenses, what the ServiceNow is providing right now, right?
Yes.
This, the costing of that this that's basically different for every customer. This is a ServiceNow store where you will basically install some plugins or something, right? To install some applications for the ServiceNow which is pre-built, right? And now I think we have to move to the instance so that we can see the demo, right? And navigate to the platform. Let me open my developer instance. So whenever you wanted to do some demo or something, whenever you take the some dev instance or something, you have to go to the active plugins page here after the login, right? Here you have to search for the discovery. Here you will see the discovery plugin. Just click on the activate, or you can normally activate the plugin, or you will also get some demo data whenever you will activate the plugin. So I preferably use the activate plugin normally, but the first person, whenever you are new, you will get the demo data also.
Mm-hmm. Then that plugin it will be installed in
Right,
instant.
right, right.
Okay.
That
Mhm.
plugin will install. You will able to see some options in the filter navigator. Right.
Okay.
Let me check. I have installed that. Yes. See, we have a discovery plugin installed, so that's why we are able to see the discovery application here and their modules. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So, first we can go for the dashboard, the discovery dashboard, so that we can know about the discovery dashboard. And let me also start the Linux machine so that we can run the discovery also. Okay. So in the discovery dashboard, you will see some active status. The active status is what the running discovery in right now, the current running discoveries, right? How many newly devices you have discovered, the total device discovered devices, unrefreshed. It is kind of like in some of the times how many devices are not refreshed in the discovery process, right?
Okay.
That's the same thing. The newly discovered applications. Applications is the installed application in the customers' machines, right? The total discovery applications, how many we have discovered right now, the unrefreshed, like we have discovered some set of applications, but that's not discovered in some period of times, right?
Hmm.
If you get any kind of error in the discovery, that will also available here, right? And your unused credentials, like you have created some credentials in the table, the credential table, so that also available here, right? So let's move some core tables which we are going to be access every time whenever we run the discovery, right? Core
Yes.
modules. The first one is discovery schedule. Always set is to the favorite, because whenever you run the discovery, you have to come on that page, right? I can open
Hmm.
it on the next page. Second one is status. Whenever you run the discovery, you are navigate to the other fields, or you wanted to see how many running discoveries are right now, right? So you have to go to the status.
Okay.
In the status table, you will see the numbers, the record number, like how many discoveries you are running, how many is completed, how many is running on right now, right? Let's go more about that. The second major table is credential table. Here you are going to be configure your credentials, right? Because the credential is needed to communicate any of the machine, right? So that's why the credential table is majorly needed, and I am going to show you how we are going to be create a credential in the service now, right?
Okay.
Second one is the mid server table, right? This is the major table for us because that mid server is a major communicator from platform to the on-prem data center, right? After that, there is some probes and sensor tables that we are going to be learn more about that, because the sensor and probes is also one of the topic, the biggest topic, right? There's the running process. Based on that running processes, it's going to be run the patterns. Okay.
Hmm. Okay.
And like we can set the behaviors of the mid server, we can set the ranges, right? The IP services, we have some classifications, like if I want, see, there is a one CI classification, right? This is the
Hmm.
major table, the CMDB CI. They have some classifications, the all CI, the same Unix, Windows, SNMP, SNMP system IDs, HTTP, processes, process handler. Let me show you some Unix classifier. How they classify the IP as a Unix. Okay, let's see
Okay.
for Linux. What we set here so that they will run the pattern, right? Let's see
Hmm.
here. See, here some classifications are triggered, right? So, whenever the discovery scans any of the device in the first phase, then it goes for the classification based on that port, right? It's trying to authenticate with that port whenever the data will came as a right. So, but it's checking the classification criteria is name is equals with Linux. Whenever the name is came from the device is equivalent as a Linux, so you have to trigger some probes. The probes is horizontal pattern, right? That pattern is a basically set of commands which is run by one on that machine so that it will get some data, right? Then multi-probe Unix ADM that will going to be scan some running processes. SSH command install software, right? This is basically find some installed application on the Linux machine. This is also some of the traffic based collection data, right? Basically,
Mhm.
it's get some information about the machine's network, where they are going to be connected, how many nodes are there, the network nodes, how many IPs are assigned on that machine. Because in the servers, there is no limit to assign a IPs, right? So it is possible. Maybe one of the machine have 8 IPs or one of the machine have 2 IPs. That could be possible, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start from basic, how we are going to be deploy the discovery. So first, we need a mid server, right? So we
Mhm.
have to search for the mid server in the filter navigator. You will get the option for the download. You have to click on that. On that download, you have some certain options here, like the if you have an architecture of MSI, the MSI architecture of the Windows, you have to install that application by click on that button, right? Or you have a machine in a Docker, the Windows machine in a Docker environment, right? So you have to use that installer, right? For the Linux machines, if you wanted to install the mid server in the Linux machine, so you have to use because Linux have some flavors, the RPM flavor, the Debian base, and some Docker also, right? So if you have a RPM based Linux, so you have to install 64 or 64 signature, right? Or if you have a Debian based Linux, so you can use 64 normal or 64-bit signature. And Docker is also support only a 64-bit, so you can install that one. But I preferred for the Windows, I can use that one, the Windows zip. Okay.
Mhm.
On that, basically, this is the installer kind of thing. It is installed as kind of like I will show you the both of things. I can click on that. It will start. It will show you the MB of that machine. I can start the downloading of that one. Okay, so our MSI installer is downloaded. Now we can download the zip also. So zip is downloading. So at the same time, we are going to be check the downloaded zip one. So this is the installer, right? Whenever I will click on that, it's start as a installer, like we are installing any of the application, right? It is a similar kind of thing, right? So my machine is a Windows 11, so it needs some kind of some checksums here. So that installer has some kind of bugs also. That's not a bug basically. That's basically some custom checksums. It needs some minimum OS version or something, right? It is saying like you have OS version server 2012 or greater than 2012, right? That's why I'm not preferring to install via that installer. I prefer to install via the zip file because the zip file installation is so easier rather than this one because that's also need a service user in your machine also. Okay, so I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to use the zip format. That's my zip machine, right? I'm going to copy that one and I can put that on the Windows folder. I can open that and copy the agent folder only. You have to click that, copy that, go back to your folder wherever you wanted to install your med server, right?
Mhm.
Paste it at, so it's extracting that information here. So at the same time, you have to do some certain task in the platform. Like you need one user which is help you to communicate to the platform or to the mid server, right? Because if this is not communicating via the credential basis or authentication basis, that could be a security error, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's why we need one user which have a role of mid server, right? So we have to go
Okay.
to the system user table, then create a new user here. You can give the name as mid server, the simple name, okay? Mid server. You can use any of the name. Just select it, save it. Okay, so our user is created. Now we can give the role because the role given is more important. If you are not providing the mid server role to that user, it's not going to be communicated via the mid server to that platform. Server or here. Here is it. Just only double click on that. It will came here. Or save it.
Okay.
Okay. See, there is some SOAP scripts, SOAP query request, REST services, right? Because that user should be able to run the REST services or query request. Then only it will try to communicate to that mid server because that communication is a HTTP communication, the 443 communication, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Let me set some password to that. Okay. Password is generated. Let's reset that password first. Let's give the password as mid server. Right? Server. Okay.
Like that. Yeah.
Current one. Then we give the mid server here.
Is that correct? That current password, I think.
Yes, the current password is correct because it's getting the password from here.
Okay. But
But I have to remove this one only,
hmm.
right? Something error. It should be have one uppercase letter, one digit, one space character. Okay, we can also do that. Capital letter, right at 123. 123. Okay, contains 8 character. Complicated that.
You can give mid server.
Right. So at 123.
Oh God.
Password must not contain any user data. Nice. Okay, let's create with KALI
No. Okay.
Ali at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6, 7, 8. Ali is an operating system which is used for the security that I loved to use. Now, what was the issue? Can
What
you
is
suggest any? Can you suggest any password for that?
okay? Service now at the rate 123
SERVICE service now,
at the
right?
rate 3. Yes.
1, 2, 3, right? Let's see. Great, it's worked. Okay, it's done. Let's install the Met server here in my machine. Okay, we got the agent folder here. So we have to basically do some configurations in some of the files. Let me change this to as a list format. So here we in the agent folder we need to work on 2 files. First one is config file, right? And the second file is available on the conf folder, and the file was wrapper override.
Okay.
Wrapper override.conf. Okay, these two major files, configuration files, are needed to be configured. If you are not going to be configured in any of the one, that makes any kind of error in your installation. Okay, so let's first start from the config file and open it to the any of the text editor. Right, open with WordPad. Okay,
Okay. So these all are the configure process.
the, yes, that's a mid server installation process. Okay,
Okay.
so here, see, there is some parameters here to be configured. It's saying first you have to give your instance URL, right? So let's copy that instance URL from the web browser. That's my instance URL first digit because some of is already available here. So I'm removing that and replace with that name. Okay. Now here we have to provide the your instance username here. Just remove this. Instead of this, put the mid server, the name of your user which you created, right?
Yes.
Then the password for that user, SERVICE service now at 123. Correct?
Yes, correct.
And
Yeah.
here you have to basically pass the name which is going to be show in your service now, right? Like in that table, in the mid server table, because we have to know also about how many mid server we have installed, right? So that information will appear in this, right?
Okay.
Okay, so we can give the name as demo one, right? Demo one, and there is some more fields are here also to be configured, like the proxy details, because some of the customer are using the proxy information, right? So if you wanted to configure the proxies in the mid server, right? So you have to first of all uncomment this one because this is the XML format. So you have to remove that arrows from this starting and this end, just like that one, right? Whenever you remove this one, that parameters are start to be accessing, right? Basically, we are just uncommenting that. So here you have to provide the proxy IP or proxy port, right? Which is configured in the customer environment.
But why we need proxy?
Okay, so proxy is basically the clients are using the proxy to be secure that network, right? So you are able to communicate in the customer environment, right? But if you wanted to communicate to the internet from the customer environment, so you need a proxy. Proxy is kind of a you can consider the proxy as a bodyguard in the gate, right? He is stopping you to accessing the internet in the customer environment, right? In the data
Mhm.
center. So that's why they will provide some proxy details. So whenever you will put that information or you will going to be access the internet, so the first request will go to the proxy server, then proxy server will resolve that request and send to the internet and get some output and send back to you, right? The proxy is
Hmm.
used for basically for the security purpose. Like no one will going to be access the internet from any of the server, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So proxy,
So
those value, they will provide, client will provide, or we
yeah,
need.
client will provide you the proxy. Yes, client will provide you the proxy details because that was configured by the client environment, right? The client network team will configure that informations.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. So the basic configuration is done here. So just save this file. Let's go to the second file, the wrapper override file. Open that on. Okay. So here is some major fields which we have considered, like the wrapper name, wrapper.name, and the name is equal to snc.mid. That name is basically your service name, right? Whenever you start that mid server, it's create one service in your machine, right? And could that would be a basically a unique name. If this is not a unique, so whenever you install another mid server in a same machine, that's going to be conflicted, right? Conflicted. Whenever you start one, it will shut it down the second one, right? That's why we have to create that name as a unique. So I prefer to do just underscore or whatever your purpose to creating that mid server. Like I have a demo, so I can put demo. Or if you are using for the prod, so you can set that one the prod, right?
Okay.
Or the display name, which is going to be shown as a service name in your here. The services.msc table in the application. That's a basically the running services in your machine, right? So here you will see maybe there is already one installed mid server, right? You will see there is service now underscore demo, right? It is on already running for one of my other instance. So if I wanted to install another mid server, so I have to basically set these fields as a unique, right?
Yes. Okay.
So that's a demo one, and we are going to install for demo underscore demo one. Okay.
Mhm.
Here you can also set some information for like your this is a Java application. That mid server is a Java application. So it's use the JRE which is comes with that package. Whenever you install the mid server, it will came with the latest JRE, right? The Java runtime environment. So, or if you wanted to use other JRE, like which is already installed in your machine, or you will custom install any JRE, you can set the path here for for your JRE, right? So that your mid server is going to be access that JRE also. Okay. You can also configure the RAM, like it is an application, so it is also going to be consuming a RAM also, right? So you can basically here customize the RAM also, how much RAM it will use to perform some certain task in the machine, right? That's some kind of things, or you will know more about that whenever you are going to be directly working on it, right? So let's save this one also. Our work is done here. Go back to the agent folder. So if you wanted to start your Met server, there is one file, the start.bat file. Okay, just right click on that, run as administrator. Okay, just click yes, starting your Met server here.
Okay.
Okay, let me refresh here so that we can see there is one new service was created for demo one. This is my previous one which is created, right?
Yes.
This is the name demo one, which we configured in the wrapper override file, right?
Hmm.
Okay, let's see here. What was the status? See, we set the name as a demo one in the config file, right? I'll show you which what we are going to be showing that, right? The demo
Yes.
one is available. So when the record will appear here, we have to open this record in the new tab or in the same tab.
Mhm.
Comes here. Okay. So now you have to perform some certain task here. Like first you have to click on the validate. Okay. You have to select for all, right? You can customize this like for all application scanning, for all capabilities. The capabilities is kind of our mid server have some capabilities to scan the IP discovery, to run for event management, to run for service mapping, to scan a cloud environment, right? Or for all of the IP ranges, or you can set this for some certain ranges, right? You can install the mid server for some certain ranges also, right? Just save this, wait for the refresh, and if you go here, you will refresh this page. You will see it's trying a validating, right?
Okay. So after installation, now first we need to do validate.
Yes. First,
Right.
we need to do the validation. When the validation is running, it's showing you some data like the machine host name. This is the host name of my machine, my laptop host name, right? Because I installed that Metso in my laptop. And this is your version, your mid server version, right? Because this is also coming with the updates. And it is your username, which we created in the sys user table to communicate, stabilize the communication with the platform to the mid server, right? Let's wait for the validation. The validation is completed. It's showing yes. So your mid server installation was completed. Whenever you will get any errors in the installation time, right? It will shows here with one, two, three. When how many errors will appear, it will shows as a count here, right?
Okay.
Or if you want to more know about your errors, you have to come on that page. Let me reload that so that the page will be updated. You have to come on the mid server issue tab. Here you will see the errors, right? Whatever error will be comes here in the installation time, right? Okay.
So if
The
error,
first,
then how can we fix those things?
okay. So
Like,
how can we fix those is like it's totally depend on the error, right? Maybe the error would be the installation path was not correct, right? So that kind of error we can just do the rekey or invalidate or validate. It will be resolved automatically. Sometimes it shows as a kind of error. Let me remember any of the error. The security key is not validated. Okay. So at that time we have to do the rekey option, right? It's regenerate the security key and configure to the mid server and platform so that it will be configured perfectly.
Okay. Reconfigure the mid server mean you mean like we have to delete this server and again.
No. We don't have to delete that server. Whenever you will get the configuration certificate error or something in that table, right, in that fields area. So you just only click on the rekey option, whatever it will going to show, the force the mid server to generate a new asymptomatic key pair, right? So
Hmm.
it's automatically repair that functionality or create some certain certificate or keys in both of these side in the mid server or in the platform also, so that the error would be resolved, right?
Okay.
So the discovery have two kind of discoveries also, like the credentialless or the credential base, right? In the credentialless, it's not using the credential whenever it's run the discovery, or it's just getting some basic information, right?
Okay.
Based on the one of the the security network scanning tool, Nmap. It's going to be install the Nmap on the mid server so that it's grab some basic information of that machine without the credential, right? Okay. So now just directly run the discovery here. So I have one Linux machine here, right? And this is RE Linux. Let me install another machine. Let me start this one. Okay. So I have one of the machine here. Let me configure this so that it will be scannable from the mid server. And Okay, so this is the IP of that machine. Let me do some SSH for that. Done. Okay, let's configure that username and password that mush on that our platform. Okay, so we have a credential. That credential is provided by the customer side. There, basically, their system team, right? Just maintaining the Linux servers or Windows server. Okay, so whenever you will get any kind of credentials, so you have to come on the credential table, or you have to click on the new. Okay, based on the type, based on the credential type, like we have a multiple credential types here: the API credential, applicative credential, AWS, Azure, right? The same cloud, Docker, Google, JDBC, AMS, SNMP, right? So also here is a one SSH credential, right? You have to click on this one because we are going to be creating a credential for the Linux machine, right? You have to give the name here, Linux, Linux demo, okay? The username and the password, right? Save this. Whenever you will save, it will shows as this one, right? Let me copy the IP address of that machine. This is the IP address of my machine. Let me test credential. The test credential is a functionality so that you can directly check the credential is just passed or failed. See, the credential is showing validated, right? So
Hmm.
whatever the credential we have created, it is passed, is able to communicate that machine, right? So let's move to the discovery part. Let's run the discovery. Okay, let's search for discovery. On the discovery, I already told you like whenever you wanted to schedule or run the discovery, you have to come on the discovery schedule module, right? Let's jump into it. Okay, so for running the discovery, we can run in a multiple ways. Like if we have a some certain IPs, right? I just, I just wanted to run the IPs in a single time, or I just wanted to run a IPs in whenever I wanted, right? I don't want to schedule those IPs, right? So I just follow the quick discovery option. Whenever I click on this, I have to pass the IP address, right? I have to select the mid server, which is able to communicate this IP, right? And I just only have to click OK, right? And let's see when I don't want to basically do the manual task. I wanted to run that IP's discovery in every maybe in every 30 minutes or in every day on the midnight or like in every week, right? So I just have to click on the new, right? So that it will create a one scheduler, right?
Okay.
Uh, let's wait. Take some time. Okay. Here you have to give the name, right? Let's suppose the
Hmm.
Linux. There is some specifications here also. Like this, you can run the auto select mid server. It's automatically select the mid server, a specific mid server cluster. We can know about this whenever we learn more about the mid server because we can run the mid server in the cluster basis also, right? In the failover, in the load balancing modules, right? The specific mid server or use the behaviors, right? The behavior is also a kind of functionality, right? That we are going to be learn in a future sessions.
Okay.
Okay, so the same thing, just select the mid server here. If you have any kind of, if you wanted to set any kind of locations for the machine, you can set it here. Max runtime, how much time it will take to, maybe some of the time will discovery takes a 5 hours, 6 hours, or 1 day to run the discovery, right? So we can set also like you just only run for the 30 minutes only, whatever the data in comes on the 30 minutes, after that it would be automatically cancel that discovery, right? That right now it is on demand, right? Or you can schedule this for the daily basis, weekly, monthly, periodically, once, weekends, right? Weekdays or weekends, month's last date, calendar, quarters. Like you can select some dates on the calendar. It's run on that one. Or after the discovery, it's kind of like you have another schedule. You have created a multiple schedules, right? Whenever your previous schedule will run, after that it will hits this one, right? So we can set this on demand, right? Whenever you click on the save button, it's created, and here it's on some discovery range. Here you have to basically set the IPs, because in the schedule you are not going to run a single IP discovery, right? You are going to be set a multiple ranges or something that you wanted to run in every day, every night, right?
Mhm.
So for the set the ranges, you have to click on the quick ranges. Then you just have to pass the IP or the range here. If you wanted to set the range, uh, if you wanted to set a multiple IPs, so you have to give the columns here, right? Or if you have any kind of ranges, right? Like the 100 IP ranges or 200 IP ranges or maybe 10 IP ranges, it's have some subnets, right? So you can set the subnets like the /16, /24, /18, right? So I just only have a one single IP, so I can pass one single IP and make the range. It set that IP in the range here, right? You will see the
Okay.
IP address list. It just only have a one single IP. Okay, so now we know we can run the discovery in two parts. First is quick discovery. Second is schedule. We can schedule, right?
And those ranges, IP ranges are like which systems ranges or like
Okay,
what?
I'll tell you. See, the IP is configured in the machines, right?
Yes.
In the customer environment, that's not possible. Maybe they have just some single, maybe they have some 10 or 5 devices, right? Because in the data center they have a lot of devices, maybe in counts of 100 or 700 or 1000 or 500, right? So when
Yes.
you have a 500 or 600 IPs, right? So at that time network team will configure those IPs in a ranges, because in a one range there is predefined, in a single range you will only have the 255 IPs, but the usable is 254 IPs, right? But you have a thousands of servers. So you have how many IPs you have? The 1,000 IPs, right? So when you bifurcate that in a ranges, so you have a multiple ranges, because in a single range you have a 254 IPs. That subnet was 24/24, right? So that's why we set our ranges.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So let's run the discovery for my machine so that we can see what was the output. I'm not going to run the schedule. I'm just going to the quick discovery here. I set the target IP.
If multiple would be there, then how could you give that
If you
IP
have
number?
a okay, if you have a multiple IPs, so first of all, you can run the one by one, or if you wanted to run a multiple, like you have a 10 IPs, or you wanted to run in a single tab, so you have to create a one schedule, right? You have to set that schedule on demand. Don't schedule that for the any of the particular date or timing, right? Just
Hmm.
schedule that as a on demand, or you can run as a quick, right?
Anytime.
I will show you that one also. Like that's a single run, right? I have click this one. You will see there is a one status is created. I have already shows you that we have a one status table here. This one, right?
Okay.
That status number is also appear here.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it's running. You will see it's running. I can open this one from here, or I can open this one from here also, because there's that same table, right?
Hmm.
Let's open that schedule so that we can run the discovery from the schedule also. Okay, so if you wanted to run the discovery from the schedule, you just set the IP range, right? After the setting the IP range, you have to click on the related link. One of the link is discover now. When you click this one, it will run the discovery for all of the given IPs. Maybe in 10 IPs, 20 IPs, or some 100 of IPs, right? That you can run here. Or you just only have to set this on the run as on demand, right?
Okay.
Let's refresh this. Okay. So let's see what step is running here. You will see it's classified as a Linux server. Unix classification probe are triggered, which I showed you. This one, right?
Hmm.
Unix classification is run and it's classified as a Linux server, right?
Okay.
Okay, let me show you the steps, how it runs. Okay, so first of all, we have a four phases. The first phase was the Sajam scanning, right? The Sajam is going with the some of the payloads to check the scanning ports, the WMI, SNMP, SSH, HTTP, WINS, DNS, SLAP, right? The output is which is going from the instance, right? And
Hmm.
input was which is comes from the customer side, right? So it comes with some of the ports. Let's see that. We can see that also, the result which is coming, right?
Yes.
When you come here, just click on payload XML, right? Here you will see some activities like active, one port as active, alive, probe time, the taken time here, okay, the alive IP address, scanning name, the general TCP port scanning for 135, WMI. Result was refused because that port is not enabled, not open, right? Let's move
Hmm.
for the next port. It's also trying for the 44443. It is available because I'm running the Apache on that machine. That's why it's on the 443, right? Showing the result is open, right? After it's moved for the HTTPS, the port number 5986 for the WIN RM SSL certificate. It is showing the result is timeout because it is not configured in my machine. And it's moved to for the SSH testing for the port 22, right? The
Yes.
result was open. And what it's come back with the port, the SSH version. Based on that, based on that information, it's classified that machine. You will see the Ubuntu is came back, right? The Ubuntu information is come back. Based on that information, it's run this, right? Let's see, there are discovery here. So when he classified the port, when he gets the port detail, right? It, it's run the classification, the Unix classification, the multi-probe, right? And it's run the horizontal also. The output is going on, the input is coming on, right? Now it's running the pattern. Based on that pattern, it's going to be scan the IP information. It takes some time. Let's wait for the completion.
Hmm. Himanshu, I have a call at 6:30, so we can.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up in fastly. We're just going to be see the result only. Then we can close.
Yes.
This is a developer instance, free version of the instance. That's why it's running slow. If it is a production environment, that runs fastly.
Mhm. It takes time usually.
Usually it's just take 2 to 3 minutes, but this is a developer instance, right? So
Okay.
that's why it's taking time to run the processes. It's completed, right?
Okay. Yes.
Let's see the result. It's stuck in somewhere. Let's see the horizontal pattern sensor payload was in an unexpected format. The payload will not be proceed. It comes with any of the error, right?
Mhm.
So whenever it comes with any of the error, it will shows as kind like this, right?
Okay.
I have to resolve this error. We can continue that session for the next class, right?
Yes.
Because you have a meeting.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Yes.
that's the basically the discovery process here, how we can run the discovery, and that's a good thing. We got some error here, and we are going to be resolve this error in the same time so that we can learn that also how we are going to be resolve that errors.
Yeah. True. Okay. And
Yes.
can you share those document so that I can also go through this if possible?
Uh, okay. Okay. I can tell the Tausif to share you that documents to you so that you
Okay.
can go through that documents also.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
You.
Gayatri. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye.
And one more thing, Himanshu, please share this video. I mean this recording so that I can
Yeah,
refer one,
sure.
so I can get
Yes,
more.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tausif will share you that video, the recorded
Yes.
session to your mail ID. Okay?
Yeah. Just convey him one more time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, sure. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.